there's this narrative right now going around that anybody under 30 is not going to be able to own a house. So that's the narrative there. And I think that that's very misguided, very unfair to anybody who is under 30 and buys into that bullshit. And so I do believe that we have to start thinking about things a little bit differently here. And I do believe that in that world, in that existing system that they're talking about, somebody under the age of 30 will never own a house. If they're earning fiat and they're going to be living their life in fiat for the next 10 or 15 years, they will never get a house. But if they're thinking differently, if they have somebody in their life that can kind of push them into a different direction in terms of not paying $100,000 to go to school for a degree that they're not going to have a job with at the end of that, they're going to have $100,000 worth of debt, and they're focused on earning fiat. If they're in that system, they're never going to be able to afford a house. But if they think differently, if they realize kind of where we're at right now with everything, and they start putting their focus, their energy, and time into building in Bitcoin and earning Bitcoin and finding different avenues that will lead them in that direction, they are definitely going to own a house. They're not only going to own a house, but they're going to have the nicest house on their block, maybe in their town. So there is truth to that anybody under 30 will not be able to afford a house in that fiat system. But we're not thinking in that system. We're living in the Bitcoin world. So let's, I'm going to bring up this chart again. I love this chart. Good morning, Bob. Brendan says I have to leave the chat due to a fiat world meeting. Good to see you, my friend. Have yourself a great Tuesday. So let's bring this graphic up. And this is what I mean. When we're talking to kids, when we're guiding kids in kind of that direction in terms of once they finish school, if they go through the public school system, if they go through that, what do they do from there? And I do think the advice should change as it has over time, but even from 10 years ago, I went through that whole system of going through public school to college, to university, to doing my CPA and working for the same job for 9 years. And I think that there was a time where that worked, where you could actually work yourself into a good job, climb the ladder, and make a pretty damn good life for yourself. But that's not the case anymore. And we have to realize that. And so this graphic here, this chart shows the price of houses in fiat and in Bitcoin. So in 2010, or let's start with 2013, I think that's the most realistic one. So 2013, the average price here was $418,000. At the time, the price of Bitcoin was $14. So that house cost 29,000 Bitcoin, or $418,000. Fast forward to 2023, and this is kind of the more normal one, I think. So I'm going to focus on that. 2023, the price of a home, $662,000 for a house in Canada here. In Bitcoin, the price of Bitcoin, 23,000. And so that house, even though it went up $200,000, it only costs now 28 Bitcoin compared to 29,000 Bitcoin. So people in that scenario, if they own that same house from 2013 and they saw it go up in value by $240,000, they're pumped. But think about how much they lost in terms of Bitcoin. And so if you look at this trend in terms of Bitcoin per house and what it's cost over time, this is a graphic that's really hitting home with a lot of people right now. I met with a couple earlier this week, or no, it was on Friday. And they live in this world of real estate. The guy had a construction business. The wife was a realtor. And so they understand the housing prices, and they've lived in that world for a lot of years. And this was the graphic that really changed their mind on what Bitcoin's doing right now. Everything is falling in comparison to Bitcoin. And so I wanted to start with this graph because it is important to not only cut ties with the things I'm about to talk about here, but also cut ties with that mindset in terms of you're not going to be able to afford a house if you're under 30 right now in that fiat world. So cut ties with that mindset, cut ties with that mentality, and start holding your life's energy and your life's work into Bitcoin instead and see what happens. So that's where I wanted to kick things off in terms of this topic for today.